All right. Hi, my name is Dan McDaniel, and I am doing a presentation tonight on some basics of JavaScript for our CIT 261 web development class, web development, mobile application development class. Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen with you guys. Can you see my screen? Yeah?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, great. All right, so I put together this little PowerPoint type presentation. It's very simple. It just has some basic stuff about JavaScript that might be helpful. So just kick it off with this. This is the list of the primitives in JavaScript, which would be helpful to know. These are the 5 primitive data types in JavaScript: the string, the number, the Boolean, the null, and the undefined. And everything else in Java, or JavaScript, everything else in JavaScript is an object. And that means, that has some implications for some of the later lessons that we're going to do. But basically for right now, these are the different types of objects that, the types of primitive data that we're going to be working with. And anything else is going to be categorized as an object, and they evaluate a little bit differently. So skip over to the next slide. Okay, so these are all the topics that I was asked to present on tonight. And so we have the for loop and the while loop, conditional statements, functions, variables, parameters, arrays, including the methods and sorting of arrays, and the associative arrays. So here's just a basic overview of each of the types of loops and conditional statements and everything that was described above. And I just did them in one-liners so that they'd all fit on one slide. But as you can see, there's a for, there's a for in, there's a while, this is a do while, this is an if statement with an optional else, there's a function declaration with an optional return. We've got a variable assignment, and we've got an array where we're defining the first element, which is 0 indexed in JavaScript. And then we have an associative array, which is really an object. So it's an object name, and then this would be like the first association in the associative array, and there's the value. So it's very basic stuff. It's a lot like C in a lot of ways, the structure of the for and the while, and which loops are available and stuff like that. So it's pretty easy to follow along. One thing to note, the variables are not typed when you define them. So this variable here, you'll notice it's just a var. It's not declared as an integer or anything else like that. There are no, there's no need to define it to a particular data type. So that's the basics of it. Each of these is linked out to the tutorials on W3 Schools. We can look at those later if we have any need to go through all the specifics of it. But I also coded up just a little example page that might be helpful. So let's flip over to this screen. This is my GitHub. So this is what I coded up. I just have a really simple HTML5 empty index page, and then I'm doing all the generation for this in this JavaScript main, and then there's a CSS file right here. It's got some color coding and bolding the fonts and stuff like that. And so I'll just walk you through kind of what I've got so you can see each of the things kind of in action. So I declared these up at the top. I don't remember what the standard is for declaring globals, but I know it's not good practice, but just for the purposes of this exercise, I just wanted to get something out there. So rows and columns match, and the count is rows times columns. And I've got this first function declaration is an onload. So the first thing that's going to happen on the page is it's going to load. And then right here, when it hits the body, it's going to call this onload function, which pulls out to this, this external JavaScript. The reason why it knows how to do that is because we have this script tag right here. And so the script tag is just telling it the type of the script, and then the source that it's at this main.js and close tag. So when you get a function call, if it's not already defined somewhere in the HTML document, it knows it's supposed to pull up this file to look for it. And if we had other scripts in there, it would know to go through them in sequence. So I'll go back to here. And I just put a console log message in there that just tells it that the page is initializing. And I pop up an alert that says your experience is being generated. It's just, I'll show you what it looks like. So it'll do something like that. And then just hit OK, and it generates the page. In order to get everything, all of the topics that were listed into this page, some of this stuff is a little contrived. But you'll see here that I created an object or an associative array for the colors. And so the property name is 1, and that's red, and the second property name is 2, and that's black. And then, so those are stored so that I can use them later in the code. We've got a div that I'm creating dynamically in the document that will serve as just a divider for holding on to the elements that we're going to create and append a little bit later. And so then I go through here, and I've got a variable that I set up to hold the value that we're currently on. And then I create this table element. And this is the first loop that I use, just a for loop. And so I'm using like a zero-indexed iterator, and just going all the way through all the rows, and then creating an actual row, a table row HTML element that's going to get appended in later. And then I'm going through all the columns next, and I'm creating a table data for each of those. And then comes the next part of it. We're asked to do some conditional stuff. So I threw in this if statement that's basically just determining whether it's supposed to be a red or a black square on a checkerboard pattern. So it's just taking the modulo of the two modulo of n, and so determining whether it's even or odd. The same thing with m, and that's one condition. And the other possible condition for it being in the first color is that it's not either of those things. And so that's how you get the checkerboard laid out there. And then you see here we've got our associative array, and we're pulling the value out of it. Instead of a normal index like we'd see in most arrays, we're using a word to pull what looks like an index out of an array, but it's actually a property out of an object. And then the alternate classes there, or cases there, where we're setting the class to be, I believe that's black. And then I did another conditional statement here that calls a function. So that was another thing that we were asked to do, is do a function call and have a parameter passed to it. So I just created this function called isPrime and passed it the value. And then if it is prime, then it's going to bold that value. So then the next thing is I just told it to make the value of each of the squares the value that it's currently on, and increment right after. And then it appends that data to the row. And then after the row's completed, So it appends all the data into the row, it appends all the rows into the table, and then the table gets appended to the div down here. And that's pretty much it. This is the function that I created for the prime, which demonstrates a couple other little things. First, this is a parameter that gets passed into the function, and there's a little bit more conditional stuff here. Nothing too fancy. This primes array is a standard array of numeric values, numbers, and then just to be thorough with the types of loops, I split this out into a do-while loop for matching to see if the number that was passed in is a member of this array. And if it's not, then it goes into checking to see if the value is a multiple of any of the numbers in that array, and that's done in this while loop here. So we've got a do while and a while, and then there's just some test code at the bottom that doesn't really do anything. So that is my full code for you guys. I've got some CSS here defining like the different classes, the red and black classes that are used there in that associative array, and the bolding. Then I centered the text, and that's about it. So you guys have any questions?
No questions.
Nope.
So it's basically just a checkerboard with the primes bolded in white?
You got it. That's all it is. So it's dynamically generated. The prime checking, I just did this for a finite set, so it doesn't work on any size grid, but it'll work on lower size grids. So if I were to put 7, I think it'll actually work on 9 as well. Let's save that. Regenerate this. Yeah.
How easy would it be to set up a non-finite, an infinite prime number list in JavaScript?
It's really not that hard. You can either do it recursively, or you can, well, you pretty much have to do it recursively to have it be efficient, I think. But there's, it's just a couple loops that kind of feed back to each other, and yeah, that's about all there is to it. The method that most people use is they'll take the square root of the number, and they'll generate the primes up to that number, and then they'll check each of those primes along the way as they're generated to see if the original number is divisible by that number. And so if it is a divisor, then it's not prime. But if you make it all the way to the square root, then you're done. It is prime. So yeah, it's not that hard to do, but I just thought it was overkill for what we're doing right now. Yeah, so it's a simple demonstration, but I thought it was pretty good for what it needs to be. Since David's not here,
David is here.
Oh, David is here.
Yeah.
David, you came. All right, man.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Hold on. Yeah, let me switch back out of my screen here. So, David, we had you down for doing like the second part of tonight's lesson, which was the second part of the JavaScript stuff. Did you want to step into that, or do you need a little bit more time?
No, yeah, I can step into it. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I was just curious because I don't see the volume bar.
Yeah, you have to speak up just a little bit though. It is kind of
okay. Oh yeah, I'll try to speak up. So I wasn't too sure if I was going to present tonight because when I signed up on the spreadsheet, I thought it was going to be another week. So I'll only have a PowerPoint.
That's fine. We're gonna meet. We're gonna have to meet again Thursday.
Yeah.
So if you can either hold off tonight and do all together Thursday, or you can do your presentation, and then if you've got more you want to demonstrate Thursday night, you're more than welcome to.
Okay. No, yeah. I can do the PowerPoint, and
Okay.
then I'll finish inheritance on Thursday.
Cool.
Okay.
So yeah, it's all you, man. You can take the floor, and then yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I can't go full screen because I have two monitors, and it kind of like messes it up right now.
No worries.
Okay. So this is JavaScript objects. Almost everything in JavaScript is an object. And so an object, there are variables that contain variables. So the difference is that an object or a variable contains like only data values, but objects contain many values. And these are known as the properties. So here we see that the cell phone has like the key, like a name and the value. And these are the properties. And so each property starts with a name, then it's the colon, and then it's the value. And so here we see like a more realistic example of it. Okay, and so to create an object, there's two ways. The first one is with the new keyword. And after you initialize or you declare the variable, you can make it an object with a new keyword. And then after that, you can set properties by using the name of the object and then the name of the property that you want it to have. Kind of like an example of here, we give person the first name David, we give the age of 23 and the eye color of brown. Okay, and the other way is with the object literal. And this way it's like the preferred way to make objects in JavaScript. So we can see the difference that this one has a new keyword, but this one it's kind of like JSON in a way.
Mhm.
And it follows like the same examples. It's the name and the value. Okay, the access properties. These are the ways to access the object's properties. We have like the dot notation right here and the value. And this is another way. We have the object name, and then inside brackets, we have the value, or I mean the name of the property. Okay, and we can also add or delete properties. So the first thing we gotta do is like put in the name of the object and then set the property and then set the value. So this would be the name and that would be the value. So to delete, pretty similar. It's just using the delete keyword. Okay, and so these are the ways to put a method in the objects. This is similar to the previous slide. So we put the object name and then the name and then declare it as a function. And by doing it with an object literal, we put in the name and then the colon and then mention that it's a function. And yeah, that's all I got for right now. I was gonna do inheritance, but I ran out of time.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's pretty sweet, dude. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. I have a question. Do we normally have to like show code to the presentations as well?
You don't have to. It's just a method you can use to demonstrate um, the code topic.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Because I
I
only
mean,
got this presentation done.
yeah, and you kind of put some code in your presentation, so
Yeah.
you're good, man.
Okay. Yeah, is there any questions?
No, I'm just I'll be happy to see, like, if you were gonna do the inheritance stuff on Thursday, that would be good to see how it all looks.
Yeah, it was like a little bit different than other like languages. So yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
something I'll have to look more into.
Right on. Well, I think that's pretty much it. If we don't have any other questions or anything, I know it was short, but
Yeah, Maxwell, do you have any questions?
No,
Cool.
I've been over JavaScript before, so
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
this is basically just a refresher.
Yeah, I
it's
just want to
awesome.
make sure everybody had a chance to ask questions. So awesome, man. Thanks, David. I guess I'm gonna stop the broadcast now.
Sounds good.